Well, so what we'll do here is just give you an introduction to what Pulse for Good is, the problems that we solve, and how we do that. Anything else that you see within here that you'd like more information on, I can send you a link to a deeper dive of that specific thing. That way, we're just addressing things that are of concern or of note to you. So, with that, I'll go ahead and give you a high level overview of what we do at Pulse for Good. Obviously, we're big on listening and transparency. So I'll go through all of that with you. Really, what we're doing is there's a problem that's being solved. Traditional feedback with SurveyMonkey or any of the traditional survey tools aren't necessarily built with human services in mind or when there's a big vulnerability gap. And for us, vulnerability gap is the difference of what people want to say versus what they feel comfortable saying. And in a normal retail experience, a shopping, a store, Walmart, a clothing store, if you don't like what's in there, you take your money elsewhere and you go find other options. You shop online, you do all those other things. With human services, there's not always the ability to pick up and move to a different service. And on top of that, you might have a great relationship with your therapist or counselor or case manager, whatever it is in human services, be it services for people experiencing homelessness or in a domestic violence center or behavioral health center. We kind of cross the board there in the human services spectrum. But what we've found out is that traditional feedback options really aren't built for that environment. What we mean is most surveys or services want to tie feedback to an individual, which is called experience management. So we do it a little bit differently, and I'll go over that here. So really, I won't read all the numbers on the screen. You can go to our website and go through that, but you can see really important information here about people being way more likely to share when, number one, it's convenient and easy, and number two, when they're confident that there's anonymity. And that will get into a little bit of the hardware that we talk about and the way we do things. So really what we see is that there's not purpose-built tools for this currently. SurveyMonkey, Typeform, spreadsheets, Microsoft Forms, lots of different tools, but really what ends up happening is it's not really a tool problem, it is a resource problem. Staff is already spread thin, doing a number of different things, and unfortunately feedback falls to the bottom of the task list or things of importance. And it's, hey, one of those things that we'll get to later versus something that says, hey, let's plug this in and have it continuously running, gathering data for you in real time. And the data is there for you when you're ready to act on it. And we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about the feedback loop, which is really the way that we solve these problems for you. We help you automate your feedback loop. So oftentimes groups aren't leading with the full picture. They're just getting snippets when people say, hey, we need feedback. So whether it's for a grant requirement or they're applying for a grant and need some data to back it up. So they go run a survey for a couple of weeks and just go off of whatever data that is. It's just too short of time period. And lots of things that can come from that, like second guessing your decisions and did we really spend the money in the right place? Those types of things. So it's not that it's just inefficient. It's just not the right way to do it, in our opinion. You should always be asking for feedback. And so lots of different things happen: trust, staff burnout, funding gets harder, compliance risks, things get stagnant. People come in and they're feeling vulnerable, so they're not sharing what could help the program, maybe because there's not a great mechanism for it. Maybe they just don't feel comfortable sharing. Even though your team is trying to do its best, you rarely get constructive feedback about what you can do better. We're going to help with that. So really, these are the changes that are going to happen. We're going to allow you to lead with confidence based on the data that you're working with. So the way that we do all that is best explained through our feedback loop. And then this will tie into the different things that we do inside of there from a software service and a hardware standpoint. So a full managed service there. So our methodology is we take a look at your feedback loop and say, hey, is this a cycle or is it a checkpoint? And right now, most orgs that we're talking to and working with, they get stuck in this front end of the cycle. Therefore, it's not a full loop. They get paused. So what that is, let's take that grant situation. We need some dollars. There's a great grant. We need some data to back up what we're asking for in our game plan. And so we go run a quick survey, hoping that the data is what we need. And it might be a quick 2-week stint that we're pushing for that. You gather all that data, and then you look at what it says, and then you apply, and then we're done. Hopefully you get it. Regardless of the outcome, what happens is you spent in your team or staff spent so much time in this early phase of the feedback loop that they're exhausted. and they don't want to do that again. And it's a big manual lift. So what Pulse for Good does is we have tools that help you throughout this whole process. So through each of these steps, we automate the asking, collecting, and analyzing. We've got some great tools. Maybe don't automate it, but it gives you awesome tool sets to help notify. And then the implementing is really the piece that we put on your plate and say, hey, here's all of this data in real time, month to month, week to week, quarter to quarter. Here's all these reports. Here's what the data says. Now you decide what to go do. And we even have action plans to help you implement that. So we've got a couple tools in there. The asking phase, the things that we do are customizable surveys. We do it completely for you. And that's where I'll pause and just show you a quick example of what this looks like. Customizable from what is mentioned here on the low scale to the high scale. The color, we can put your logo up here. We've got a Volunteers of America logo up there right now. The languages that you want available. If they take the survey in Spanish, it's going to come back over into the dashboard into English and tell you it's translated from Spanish, Chinese. We've got over 200 languages that we make available to you. We do have conditional formatting. So what that means is if I say that I didn't feel safe, Pulse for Good isn't for the warm fluffies of, oh, great, we got 5 stars. You're going to definitely get 5 stars. You absolutely have clients that are perfectly happy with you and they want to share that. And that's all good feedback that you'll get from Pulse for Good. The real nuggets that you'll get, the gold nuggets, are the ones where they'll stop and tell you something constructive. Like, hey, this is why I don't feel safe here. Or, hey, these facilities don't meet my expectations because of X, Y, and Z. And those are things that you can do things with. You can take action on that. So we're really good at drawing those things out and helping organizations improve that way. We typically tend to ask some core questions like these. You can ask whatever questions you'd like. These are just showing some of the demographic breakdowns, and you can see test questions in there, more demographics. These types of questions to help you filter and do a good job of identifying maybe some gaps analysis and saying, hey, are there groups that we're underserving or that we could be doing better for? Or are people overly content in one segment and under in another? So really great. That's how to use the data. All of that data rolls into dashboards like these. So this is a group. You can see how they're ranking in the different programs. These are each their own surveys. And in this case, we pull this up. This is an individual one for day services. And for the year here, they've got about 1,420 responses. I won't go into all the features of the dashboard here, but you can see this group. This is our one group that we share their data. They've given us explicit permission to be able to do that. But in general, they've got this many responses. They're averaging 109 responses a month just for this program. So this is a day center where people are coming in and giving feedback. Their peak best month ever was February of this year at 221, and they're averaging 3.6 a day. So you can see that having hardware there for them really helps. But I'm not going to dive into every single little tidbit here. You can break it down in different ways, views, whatever your team sees fit. You can save your own filters here. And then one other thing to highlight here is that we actually help you use different tools to break down the open text comment. So yeah, absolutely get in here and read this whole thing. But if you need a summary of these 300 comments that have come in here, it's going to summarize that as well as give some suggestion action plans based on the feedback that's come in here. So once it's done analyzing, it's going to give you a quick executive summary of all of the feedback that's come in. And the latest kind of peaking comment here is a couple people are very concerned about food allergies. So we get to decide. That's that implementing. We've done everything for you in that feedback loop. Besides the implement part, we just give you some great tips on where to go with it. Really good, grateful feedback, some frustrated, some sad, some neutral. So just things that people are saying, hey, here's what would be awesome. If you're asking for feedback, here's what I'm giving you, and you get to decide what to do with that. So really great stuff there. That's just on the ask side. I showed you kind of that's the survey side as well as the dashboard. Inside of all of that, we've got a bunch of other things. I won't read every single one. That's just the collecting phase is that kiosk. So I'll go back to here and show you what that looks like. This adds so much psychological safety and response rates because people have never given their information to these kiosks and we don't ask for personal information there. And that's the best way to get higher volumes of feedback. So we'll go back here. You can definitely do key online surveys. So URL surveys, QR codes, a 1-800 number, even paper surveys. You can print these out, all kinds of different ways to collect the feedback. Analyzing the way that we do that, you saw some of the dashboard tools there and the different ways that we use AI and notifications. So with alerts and escalation, we can dive into that. I can do a separate session on that. Implementing, you saw the recommendation there in that dashboard for an action plan. You can assign it and track and communicate with your team internally, and then measure that within the action plans. The notifying, happy to share more information on this, but these are ways that we tell people, hey, we heard you and we're hearing it. Doesn't tell them that we're promising because you asked for a hot dog stand inside the lobby, you're going to get a hot dog stand. It's telling people, hey, this isn't a trick. We really do want your feedback and we'll hear you and we'll do our best with what you're sharing with us. So with that, you're going to build better trust. Your programs are going to get better. And our whole goal at Pulse for Good is allowing people to improve faster, especially human service organizations. There's just too many things to be done in the day to not be using technology and a service like ours to take that, at least that feedback piece off of your plate and let you improve faster in the ways that you have the bandwidth for, without just doing the busy work of survey after survey after survey and not having the energy to implement some of that change. So we free up those other things for you so that you do have that energy to implement. So that's the basics, and happy to fill in anything else. If you have further questions, let us know and we'll share that with you. All the other resources and links up here. I will say, just quick note on pricing. We do all of this. If you're looking at this from an annual standpoint, that ends up being about, with assuming you're a nonprofit organization, so that ends up being $4,200 a year per kiosk or per subscription. But even if you just have one subscription and one set of hardware or kiosk, that's going to get you unlimited surveys. So there are economic ways to go about this. Obviously, if you've got the budget for 20 different kiosks at 20 different locations, then great, your pricing gets even better at that point. So we can work through that with you. Just let us know. Happy to go through things, but appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, reach back out with questions or things that you might need us to dive deeper into.